First of all, you don't know me.
We're all about that high school drama girl, all about them high school queens. We'll take you for a ride in our comic girl, cheering for the right team. Drama queens, smart girl, rough girl, fashion but you're tough girl. You could sit with us, girl. Drama queens, drama queens, drama queens, drama queens, drama queens.
Welcome back to season 7, episode 4. Friends at home. I am just beside myself. Before we even get into the synopsis, we have to talk about the fact that we're joined by a special guest who's filling in for our co-host today. None other than Daphne Zuniga is back on Drama Queens Friends.
Woo! So excited.
Hi. These episodes have been so delicious for Victoria. I'm unwell. I have so many questions.
Oh my God. And the episode that we're doing is so perfect for Victoria and especially Brooke and Clay.
It's so good. All right. Who wants to tell the fans at home what we're watching this week?
I can give the synopsis.
You give us the synopsis, Rob.
Nathan's scandal becomes public. Brooke's fashion show brings an unexpected responsibility for Millicent and Haley. And Haley convinces Quinn to talk to her estranged husband, David. Commas. They're so confusing. Meanwhile, Mouth makes a decision that could threaten his career. Directed by Greg Prange and written by the one and only John Norris.
And the episode title is Believe Me, I'm Lying, which tracks for some people's behavior, wouldn't you say?
I would. Before we get into the episode, can I ask a personal question I have, but I imagine many of the fans have as well. Soph, is life better as a redhead?
Oh. You
recently made the change. I've been dying to know.
You know, it's so funny. It just feels sort of fun. Like, obviously, we all had this weird time during COVID, but this year coming out of our strikes, you know, in our industry, when all of our unions went on strike, this is actually the first year that I haven't signed on to another show. Like I've been developing things and doing things. And so for the first time, I have the ability to go and just make a couple movies in a row. And for this next movie I'm going to do, I wanted to dye my hair, and I'm actually really into it. I was like, oh, it fits the character, but maybe this is also me. Am I she?
So what I'm hearing is if I dye my hair red, I will not only be having more fun, but I will book multiple projects back to back to back.
Listen, I think it's worth a shot.
Couldn't hurt. The self-tape thing isn't working. Let's try going red.
I hate self-tapes. They're awful.
But by the way, Rob, your self-tapes that you post on Instagram are hilarious.
Oh,
Fighting with, you guys are fighting with each other, right? And it just reminds me, at least, like, I don't have an actor husband. It's behind that. When I used to do self-tapes, I really much have just given up because they're just horrific and they never lead to anything. So I'm like, I don't want to do that. I choose out door number 2. But before I did, David would be like, are you crying? It doesn't say you should cry. I'm like, just read the words that I highlighted for you, Mr. Non-actor. He's like, I think you're a little worked up. And I'm like, it's just stressful.
You're really. Like, when the camera is rolling is not a time for feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not looking for notes in real time.
No. And then also like reading it and then looking at me, like, how am I going to read my line? I just want like a fellow actor to be there with me and not my husband, because I'm just like, forget it. Never mind. All right, fine. Okay. Geez, you're a little touchy. Wow. This is really helping me.
You're like, this is not good for our relationship. I will see myself out.
Yeah. Well, I feel like there's a lightness about you and a loveliness and that I've seen. So whatever it is, it looks good on you.
Thank you. Yeah. I think when you like stop swimming upstream or pushing the rock up the mountain, like that sort of Sisyphean metaphor, right? Like maybe just let it go and follow it. What a wild concept. Who knew?
I think we're all sort of like trained and conditioned to look for the struggle and to cling to something. Even if it's struggling, we're clinging. We feel like, and when you can kind of like let go of a struggle, even though it's familiar, and that's what I've noticed lately. And I think you can constantly keep doing that and see what's there. It's so much better for your nervous system and your whole being, but it's a little wait, this is happy. What am I supposed to do with this? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's lighter. What do I do with this?
it
And
is
you
wild.
do it. That's what you do with it.
And going with the flow, you have now found yourself co-hosting a new podcast. How has that been for you?
Well, thank you for bringing that up and asking.
Mhm.
Yeah, that actually is a good example, coincidentally, of what I was talking about. Still the Place is a podcast, Rewatch. We copied you guys on our show that we did in the 90s, Melrose Place. So two of the other actresses who were leads on the show, Courtney Thorne-Smith, who played Allison, and Laura Layton, who played Crazy Sydney, and I started co-hosting this podcast. And that
It's so
happened.
cool.
Yeah.
Laura and I have been developing this other Melrose project for years. Like you're saying, pulling, you want to know what that's like, pushing a boulder up a very steep mountain. Get in development. Do something in this business and try to make something happen from an idea. And that's what it's like. And there's always, speed bumps and things happening, and you just have to. But so Courtney and Laura and I we're in touch. We're still friends. And she said, she texted us one morning, guys, I woke up and my girlfriend called me and said, I had a dream that you're doing a Melrose podcast. And Courtney texts us and says, why aren't we doing a Melrose podcast? Let's do it. It'd be so fun. And boom, I got in touch with iHeart, meeting, done. Easy peasy flow. And our intention from the beginning, is to have fun, to sit around and watch a show that we did. You guys think you did yours a long time ago, and you're wondering if you'll remember anything. I'm sure ours was 30 years ago. And for sure, we don't remember stuff, but watching it, we've done about 4 have aired so far, and from the pilot, and watching it triggers memories, and it's the 90s. So it's a freaking trip on a whole other level. And we look so young because we are. So it's a real fun thing to do. And we get together every week and just, that's what I mean about just dropping the stress about it and just having fun with it.
Yeah.
So we're really, it's a blast.
It's so cool. Is it, because I don't really know about, your history on that show. I don't know if you had like a scary kingpin in the way that we did. Is it just purely fun and wild and hilarious, or do you find yourself having to navigate through periods of, periods of strife or trauma or other things that are sort of wild to do as well?
Well, good question. We did not have a scary kingpin who,
I love that for you. Thank God.
Thought he was our kingpin, who was Aaron Spelling. Okay. So this man.
You had an actual kingpin.
This man, right. And he was lovely. I mean, as dramatic as it got I had to reshoot basically my intro scene because I was playing a girl from New York, and I thought I'd choose some gum and put a hat on. Well, little did I know, gum and hats are no-nos with Aaron Spelling land. And so I had to reshoot. I thought I'd be fired. No, we just reshot it. And he's like, lose the hat, don't ever chew gum, and let's move on. I mean,
wow.
That was how it started, I remember. For me, I came on halfway through the first season. But but it is interesting, Soph, because I went back and watched the whole series in the last few years because of what we're working on. And the trauma that comes up is the writing. And it's not their fault. It's society's default of going to threatening women and hurting women. And that's been the kind of default drama. If you need drama in a storyline, let's bring in a threatening guest star and hurt the girl, and then she'll win and she'll get her comeuppance. It's basically we saw over and over and over again. And I was shocked. And I remember shooting storylines like that, very intense, because it was Melrose Place. We were basically a show that went over the top and just pushed all kinds of boundaries, and the drama had to one up itself every week. So there was a lot of that. But that was kind of a shocking reality, but it wasn't behind the scenes horror. It was behind the scenes. We all got along really well. I mean, maybe like, how come she gets that dress? I want a dress. I shorten my dress too, that's it. Like, that's about it.
Ugh, James and I had that all the time on One Tree Hill.
Right?
I can relate. Yeah.
Why does he get to wear the 70s basketball shorts and I don't?
Yeah.
Yeah. And who won those? Did you ever get your way, Rob?
Lafferty, no, he's a total Devo. Are you kidding me? Because as soon as we got into it, he starts to cry, and then everyone says, don't make James cry again. He'll be in his trailer for an hour, and that's the end of it. I never got my way.
Right.
Classic Lafferty tool, straight to the crocodile tears.
Right.
Wow.
But you know what? You take it for the people.
I'm a team player. That's right, Daphne.
Yeah.
Team player.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you're here today, Daphne, because watching this episode, a little backstory. First of all, I dressed up on account of you being here. My hair is typically not done. I'm not wearing a fancy coat, but I had to come correct because you were going to be here.
And you rented a hotel room.
I rented a hotel room at the Four Seasons by Holiday Inn.
Rob, have you clarified for the nice people at the hotel in town that sometimes you have to leave your home because you need a quiet place to work, not that you're having like an afternoon delight affair?
Online?
Yes. So first of all, I almost wore a hat today. And then I realized me checking on the heels. Listener, please listen to last week's episode to understand what we're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. This is the backstory.
Okay.
I checked in last week, and it's a weird thing, right? Because I'm checking in for a reservation that was last night just to be in the hotel room for a couple hours. And I made the mistake. Yes, last week I showed up with a backpack, in a really good mood, and in gym clothes and a wedding ring. And I was like, oh, it's okay. The guy said, you didn't have reservations for last night. I said, not a problem. Only going to be here a couple hours. And then I wasn't until I got to my room that I realized, oh, they 100% think I'm here to have an affair. Yeah. So today, like I said, I almost wore a hat and I realized, no, that leans into that. And then I awkwardly just blurted out when he said, your reservation was for last night. I said, yeah, I do. I'm only going to be here for a couple hours. And then I realized, oh, no, I'm doing it again. And he went, are you okay with a room with 2 beds? And I just went, I'm not going to be using the beds. And he just kind of looked around like, okay. And I was like, yeah,
it's worse.
But then I didn't say what I was here for. So I think everyone's probably just going, what weird stuff? What's in that backpack? And what does that creep up to?
If you don't get some sort of like SponCon travel Instagram campaign with the Hilton after this, I'm going to be furious.
Likewise. Thank you.
It's the best advertising they could ever ask for.
Whether you're trying to have an affair or record a hit podcast, Holiday Inn's got you covered.
Hey.
Feel free to use it, guys. But Daphne, I was so excited that you were here because as I watched this episode, so last thing I'll say is I'm kind of rewatching this series as a first-time viewer because I after the show ended, I never rewatched it. I kind of left it all in the past, and truthfully, I'd forgotten the majority of it. So I'm experiencing a lot of things for the first time. And you in this episode, this was sort of my experience with Victoria, was so fun and juicy. And it's in my notes, before you're even on camera, you're well at the fashion show. I already started to smile. And it didn't stop. Every scene you're in is so fun and good. And it's like Pavlovian. Every time I see you on screen, I lean in like, all right.
She's the definition of a scene stealer.
Truly.
Like in the best way. You're so fun.
Yes.
But it's the lines. It's the lines, you guys. That well. I mean, it's off camera. Is that what you mean? Well.
Your line was, your well was off. And then you walked up and then you just nonchalantly said, that's the winner. It was, listen, the writing is great, but it's not all the writing. It is, in large part, you.
I feel like in this episode, I mean, she always did, but this one, and thanks for using the word fun, Rob, because Victoria before this was just evil. Like it was I'm going to like be your buzzkill and then like destroy you 3 times over and then leave the scene. But now it's kind of like she just tosses these little like I am better than you and whatever. I feel like it's like she has to say something insulting, but she's really enjoying herself with these people finally, and her daughter, she's proud and all that. But I feel like she's walking around with a little needle and just popping everyone's balloon. Like if she sees people over in the corner having a good time or a conversation, she just needs to walk up and like, yes, like her little insults. I had so much fun doing that.
I loved though that because Clay's a new person. Like I wouldn't think Victoria and Clay have had a lot of overlap, but I actually loved that they volunteered Stephen as tribute and they put Chase in the normal Peyton role because as soon as you saw him, you just were like, what? Who? And he was like, yeah, this happens every time. And you the way you delivered, well, until next time, was just so good. Yeah. And like seeing her kind of poking fun, especially at all the boys. I don't know. It shows me how sort of jovial it is. Like instead of her underlying emotion being anger or frustration that she has to be in North Carolina, now she's like, well, if we're going to have a time, let's have a time. And it's so fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I love that moment with Stephen and just, she always has this look and this ... like, why are you still standing in front of me? Yes. Okay, well, next time. I still don't know your name. I don't want to know your name.
And I don't care.
So,
you know how they in job interviews, sometimes it's a tactic that the person doing the interviewing will often they'll let the interviewee respond, like they'll ask a question and the person will respond, and then the person running the interview will just stay silent. And what they do is they're wanting to see how the person interviewing will respond to silence. Do they awkwardly fill it in and start oversharing? It's kind of like Victoria does that, where she's just like, do you want to put your foot in your mouth anymore? Are we done? Okay.
Yes. She's interviewing constantly, like she's in the control seat,
And I love when you think she might lose it. Like, Alex Dupre is the only person who might be able to insult Victoria, and her saying, who's the old lady? Like, because she knows you're driving Millie crazy. Yeah. And then your one-liner on the walkout is, I'll let you get back to not making movies. And it's like, I gasped, like audibly gasped. It was so funny. And I was like, God, she always wins. She's so fun.
And I love how these, like, she doesn't have to think about it. You know how like real people have to think of like the one upper, and I have to like you're talking, and if I want to insult you, I have to like come up with something that's never going to be good. And she's just like, I'll let you get back to not making movies. Boom. I don't know your name. Well, here we go next time. It's not just, it's just, you could tell she was really talented at something in her day. You know what I mean? Like she's, and now she uses that ability at just insulting these kids.
And the way it's a little different with Julian, where I felt like it was more playful and there's a slight warming up happening. It was a bit more layered, and I loved it. Like I said, it was very playful. I loved the banter, but then your riff on his dad and using the word lover.
Yeah.
Twice.
It was so funny. Yes, it was. How is your father, Paul? Has he taken a lover recently? And then he's gobsmacked and says, I'm sorry, what just happened? And you say, oh, sorry, I thought we were bonding.
It's so good.
Which was so funny. And then also so smart on the writing part. Shout out to John Norris, that at the end of the episode, when Julian at the end of the fashion show says to Brooke, I'm thinking about setting my dad up with your mom. And then you say, so sorry, what just happened?
Yeah.
The nice little role reversal.
Didn't he say because she says she wants a lover? Didn't he use lover again?
Yeah.
And then Soph just says, what just happened?
Yes, it's so great.
You're right, Rob. That was great writing. I thought the callback to it and the word lover is still, has it ever been? Maybe the 70s it was like cool, but it's still, to me anyway, like, who uses that word?
Yeah.
My dad said it to me once about like his hopes for the level of partner I would have. And he like started listing off all the things and was like, and they should be your best friend and like a caring lover. And I was like, Dad, stop. And he was like, we're adults. And I was like, maybe you're an adult. you like pleasant Canadian man. But I,
You're still
no
my
matter how
dad.
old I am, will always be your child. And I literally cannot have this conversation with you. By
Yes.
the way, I probably should have. He would have saved me years of heartache if I'd actually let my dad make his point. But here we
Yes.
are.
No.
We've arrived.
But we will always teach our parents how to parent. By the way, I think that's just a thing. Don't you? Like, I don't know, Rob, do you have to do that with your parents? Like I'll just have to say like, okay, a Starbucks card is fine for a Christmas gift, but you may want to give the new baby, or
sure.
my dad. That's what he does constantly. I just feel like that's part of our job is to remind them how to parent.
I love it.
TMI.
But I think there's something so interesting, right? In that the way Julian stood up to Victoria on Brooke's behalf, then flipped, 2 episodes ago or whatever it was, with Brooke being able to stand up for Julian to Paul. And now there's this like banter about Victoria and Paul. And something about like the right person coming into Brooke's life has changed her relationship with her mom. And now it's changing Julian's relationship with his dad. And I have literally experienced the same thing in the last year. And I think it is really wild, again, when it's not only the person who might, because of a job or a relationship, be pushing the rock up the hill, but like, when your kid is in the wrong relationship, when someone comes into their life and changes things for the better, like your relationship with them gets better. It's crazy to see the like reverberations within a family of healthy dynamics versus unhealthy ones. And it was such a trip to watch it in this episode because I've been talking about this with my own mom so much recently. And I was like, oh my God, I think part of this cool thing that's happening in our show is that the Brooke and Julian of it all is changing even the Brooke and Victoria of it all. Mm-hmm. And it's so sweet. And the fact that it's happening for us as an audience with so much razor sharp humor, like full chef's kiss for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you shot all these years ago and we're just rewatching now is mirroring your life. Isn't it weird how art does that?
It is so wild.
That's wild.
It's really wild. It's cool.
So you're watching it and probably experiencing and you're experiencing the show differently as an audience because you're going, oh, I feel that I've been through that.
Totally. And I was asking Rob when we started the season, what the sort of like stuff is that he has to shake out because we all have some. And I've done a lot of shaking out in watching the prior 6. So it's like, I don't know, it's crazy for all of us to be having these sort of mind-blowing moments or re-remembering things or realizing that something we didn't even know to be relevant then is so relevant now. Was it weird for you, because you're so in the rewatch of Melrose with your coworkers to do Still the Place? Is it weird to be like in your Melrose bubble and then come back into the One Tree Hill bubble, or does it feel easy?
It feels... Melrose is so long ago and I was so young that it feels a little like I'm watching it pulled back, that my lens is pulled back and I'm seeing it as scripts, kind of what we're talking about, written by writers who had a whole concept where I see the different storylines parallel each other. Something about last one we watched was about love, and there was like puppy love, and there's a marriage going on, and there's another people falling in love. And so I'm seeing it sort of from a writer's, like an overall kind of view of it.
Like 30,000 feet.
Yeah. And so that's really cool for me because when I was there, you're just in your trench working out your storyline like an ensemble does, like Clay, like Rob did with his, we all did with our storylines. You don't really overlap with everybody else. So it's, you're in your little highway there, your lane. And so it's really cool to see it for entertainment value, what the writers intended and then what the audience obviously got from them. So, and it's different because this is closer to who I am now in age, but this is far enough away where I really enjoyed last watching 704, this episode, like you were describing, Rob and Sophia. I just had a blast. I mean, and I also was touched. I mean, this was a big episode for the show. This was that fashion show.
Yeah.
The whole zero is not a size reveal. That
Yeah.
whole thing, that was a huge thing for fans and for, messaging for us in our show, that zero, this need for women to be so freaking tiny that there was zero for a while. I don't know. Was that just fast fashion? You'd go into like these stores and there was a zero. What's a zero?
That's part of it, right? And there were people who got, and listen, I get it. Everybody has a right to be offended by whatever they're offended by, but there were people, so many people I think were touched by the message. And then there were people who were very pissed about it. Some people were like, you don't know what it's like to be chronically underweight or whatever. And I was like, hold the phone. The importance of what we're talking about is actually the fact that a size zero did not exist until the late 1960s. And when we were on the precipice of women's rights really shifting and civil rights really shifting, and we were having conversations about how more than just men, we love Rob, ally first, but more people than just men should have more rights in our country. I don't think it's an accident that suddenly sizes went from being numbers to the idea of zero. Zero represents nothing. And then it became this thing to strive for. And then when we were in high school, suddenly the double zero got introduced. And it was like, what are we doing? When we think about the power of language and the power of words, like there is no size zero for men. There's only size zero for women. And it hasn't always been that way. And so for me, it felt really important to say, whatever you are, be that. But what I don't want is for society to tell you that you are your most valuable when you are your most invisible. It's like all these years later, one of the best-selling books of the last decade is Glennon Doyle's Untamed. And she talks about how she had to come to this realization of, why do we always describe mothers as being so selfless? Saying they don't have a self. Like we applaud mothers who martyr themselves, but like, what does that then model for your daughters? You would never want your daughter to do that.
Right.
And that's been one of the big conversations with me and my mom in the last few years as well. And so like this theme, whether it's about zero or whether it's about selfless or whether it's about these things, like these things that we only put on women, it felt so important for me. And by the way, like, look at Lisa Goldstein. She's the most beautiful girl. Like, she has a stunning body. Like, but this idea that even someone like her or women like any of us have been so scared about our bodies, shamed about our bodies, felt like they weren't the right bodies. Like, just enough of it. Like, let's really be all about each other. And so I loved it.
I loved it too, Soph, and everything you're saying is absolutely right. I when I saw the double zeros, I was like, they don't even know math. Like zero, dummies. Like
it's like, if you like Diet Coke, you're gonna love Diet Coke.
Yeah.
Like, guys, it's already at zero.
That's a double negative.
Like, what are we talking about?
And then you start thinking like, because when I was younger, I had that time of trying to be skinnier, and what it's refreshing now to see women of all sizes. I see in advertisements and out there, and it's like, I see in life, I see, young girls like, this is who I am. And I'm like, wow, that was a possibility all along. It took us a while as people, as a society, but I was like, wow, that was a possibility. Not in my time, not in the 80s or whatever, but and 70s and when I was growing up, but more, it's more when you're in your teens and 20s is when you really take that off. But what that brought to the episode is that the humor was there. There was a lightness and a love and all of the hate that there was this negativity, but it was in a light way. And then there was this a real important, profound story. But even, and I teared up when she pulls the thing open at the end. And I'm like, I felt like Victoria, why am I tearing up? I've seen this, I read it, it's a long time ago. What's a show, but I teared up, but not to say that again. It's very emotionally, sweet, very important.
Yeah, I think we really stuck the emotional landing on that because I think it was such a great message, especially for our show, because knowing our demographic, I think it was terrific messaging. And the way we got there was great too, because just prior to that moment, backstage, who has the idea that it should be Millie? It's Alex, which is cool and clever because we've already started to see maybe a more human, softer side of Alex when she sticks up for Millie. I need to circle back to that in a second. But the funniest part is that it's Alex and she says, Millie should do it. But she does it while writing with makeup on the passed out girl's face. And she just casually over her shoulder goes, oh yeah, have Millie do it. And I love that she is so comfortable while just writing on this woman she just roofied. By the way, I expected her to, I saw the look on Alex's face when that model was mean to Millie, I thought, oh, this is going to be awesome. She's going to just give her a verbal lashing. Yeah. No, she went straight to drugging her. Yeah. It was gnarly, right? But then when she's just drawing a mustache on her face and casually goes, yeah, Millie should do it. It's like, that's perfect. She doesn't even look back over her shoulder. She's just having fun, not concerned.
Yeah. Totally.
She's really playing the long game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I loved that. I love the layers in that. It's not expected. I wasn't expecting, you're expecting the verbal lashing from Alex. You're expecting her to do and then it's like what is she drawing? Like, is she
a
just
mustache?
Lipstick? Yeah. And then it cuts to that. And then the whole thing kind of takes place, Brooke comes in and goes, I know what to do. And, I just, in the whole show, can we talk about the music and being there and shooting?
Wait, before we get there, I just have to say, I just scrolled down to this part and I literally have written in my notes, Alex sabotaging her with meds I don't love, but I do love that she stood up for Millie in her own way.
Yeah.
Oh my God. There's something about a character like Alex, similarly to a character like Victoria, where because they get to be outlandish, you forgive their extremity and it's fun to watch. Like, if anyone did that to someone in real life, they'd go to jail. I mean, one would hope. But on the show, it is quite funny. And then, the backdrop of all of this happening in the most epic concert is just, it's wild.
Yeah.
It's the perfect blend of she's being a good friend and she's wildly unhinged.
Yes.
Like she's risking killing someone just to stand up for her friend.
And drawing a mustache on me.
Yeah, adding insult to injury.
I almost feel like, did they have her do the mustache bit to make it clear that the girl was fine? Like, is that why? Sure. Is that why they did it? Because if she wasn't fine, obviously someone would have had to call the paramedics. But maybe that was the way of being like, oh, Alex, haha.
Yeah. It made me feel like Alex knows her drugs. Like, she knows the dosage. She knows what it is. I didn't know what it was, but it was like, she knows. And I don't know. She just knows a lot about this. I feel like she's done it before when needed.
She knows her goofballs. Yeah. You know that about her. Rewinding a little bit, I noticed something on this episode, and I'm curious how you feel about actually two things. First of all, Soph, do you cringe every time on any subsequent project when a character talks to their other character, like their boyfriend or girlfriend, and uses their first and last name?
Yes.
Because that to me it's so distinctly One Tree Hill. The amount of times I had to say, I love you, Quinn James. And in the scene with you and Julian, he's like, hey, Brooke Davis.
Yeah.
And it's that thing that ever since One Tree Hill, any show I'm on, if there's a moment where they do the first and last, I'm like, I bristle.
You go,
ugh. That's a One Tree Hill thing. Yeah.
It's funny because for some reason, I'm so used to it with Brooke. Like, it tracks for me almost with her as a term of endearment. What's almost weirder to me is when you're working on something and yeah, someone's like supposed to be your spouse, but you keep calling them by their first name, like in scenes in your house. And it's like, people don't do that. I don't know the last time like people say, honey, baby, but whatever they say.
Yeah.
Like you don't, I'm never going to walk in a room and be like, Robert.
Excuse
It's
me.
so
Soph?
awkward.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? It's so weird. So the first and last name together almost tracks more for me than just the first name repeated ad nauseum in a script. I don't know. Maybe that was my coping mechanism.
It's interesting because it is a very, I can see doing it. I can see it being kind of, if you do it right at the right time, this like in your face, sexy thing. Like I'm saying this on purpose, Buckley.
Yeah.
That was steamy.
It was. You got my
no
attention.
one at home can see it, but I saw Daphne make that face and was like, oh.
But to do it all the time kind of kills the power of it, right?
That's it. It's that everyone does it all the time. Because I agree with you. It is effective. It's playful, or if it's like seductive, except when it's salt and you're using it liberally all over the place. It's like, well, okay, now it's just a weird tick. The other take I had, so again, watching this sort of as a first time viewer, because my experience of Clay and Quinn was as the actor doing it. So I had sort of backstory and lots of other things going on, but now I'm watching it for the first time at a distance. I walked away from last night's episode, or this episode 704, saying this show is so lucky that we got Chantel to be Quinn, because in the hands of a different actor, I think Quinn could have been far less likable and less successful, because I look at the lines they have her saying, and it kind of culminated in this episode specifically, because she's very vague in terms of her, like why it's not working with her husband. She's very cold and detached. And the problem is when you pair that with a scene partner in Scott Holroyd, who is open and sweet and sincere,
and so vulnerable.
It really shines a light on why aren't you leaning in? Why aren't you being warm? And I think the only reason it didn't stand out more is a testament to Chantel and really just playing it as earnestly as she could. Because, I mean, that scene where they finally sit down together and he's just like, how can we make this work? And she's like, no, I'm out. Like, it was one of those moments as an actor, I went, oh, wow. You don't realize it watching this, but if someone just came in and played these words, there is a huge chance that this character just doesn't seem very kind. Because this is your husband. This isn't the guy you went on 2 dates with. And can we do anything? No, you should let me go. And it's like, oof. And then the cherry on the insult Sunday is, first of all, Clay punching David, I completely forgot about. And is it David? Yes, David, which was a bummer. And like, oh, come on, Clay. But whatever, fine. But then after she has her last talk with him, when he's really, truly heartbroken at the end of the fashion show, she gets up and walks over to Clay's car in view directly in front of her husband and gets in and drives away with him. Like, the optics couldn't be worse. So the fact that the audience didn't turn on Quinn is entirely a testament to Chantel. That's my hot take.
I also think, like, we've been so frustrated by how vague what she says is for the last few episodes, but in a way, it almost finally worked for me this week, because I went, oh, she's clearly been going through this sadness. She has suffered the death of this relationship. And once she knew it was dead, she left. He is only realizing that for her, it's dead now. That, to me, is such an indicator of two people who do not speak the same language. And I sort of loved that she got to say, like, I'm just done. Like, I've waited for so long. It's not going to be different. I want more than this or something else than this, like that thing. And I think that's actually so universal. Do you have the courage to say, this just isn't it? And I don't want to suffer it longer than I have. Like, I know there's no coming back from this. And in a weird way, it being so vague and seeing how sort of spun out he was, I was like, oh, these people have not been speaking the same language for such a long time. And when that moment could have been so cringy, in a way, and it was what you said that sold it for me. You said, if you do this, he'll never forgive you. And she said, just drive. And I was like, oh, that's what she wants. She wants to put the nail in the coffin. Wow. And to be so committed to the idea of an unknown future where you could be happier than like staying in the thing that's been killing you a little bit every day. I was like, girl, go. That's a low blow, but like if it's the way you got to do it on the way out the door, like can do it, go be free. I don't know. I finally feel like I got the whole thing that for the last couple episodes as a viewer, I've been like, why aren't they telling me more? This episode, it clicked for me.
What is there an actual reason? I haven't tracked the last few before this. Is there a reason written in the script? Did something happen that she's unhappy with this?
It's more because Haley has asked her about it, you know, and she just sort of says, you know, because Haley says people have the right to change. And she's like, yeah, and people have the right to not change as well. You know, and at the start of this episode, they're shopping in the grocery store and Haley says, referring to a cereal, she says to Quinn, oh, look here, it has everything you need. And then Quinn says, just because it has everything you need doesn't mean it has everything you want.
She's talking about her husband and her marriage.
Yes. Yeah. So we're not really getting anything specific, just the sort of the generality of, okay, it's just, it has shifted, things have changed, and it's not working for her anymore.
Yeah. What stood out to me kind of, and we talked about this, I think maybe 2 episodes ago, I think the writers could have given her a much better story, but Quinn tells Haley this story about like a night out she had and how David didn't go and it was so special. And she essentially realized she didn't miss him at all. And it really, I told them then, like it reminded me of Brooke sort of having to learn her power, how to learn to take her power back really when she went through the whole thing with Lucas, where she was like, well, you didn't miss me. So eventually I stopped missing you. I thought it was like, while not done in a very good package, I did think there was a little Easter egg in it of like these big sort of tentpole things we've dealt with on the show. And so I think the way I've been sort of tracking it is that she's been trying to explain that they've just grown so far apart that like they don't even really, at least she doesn't miss him or like even remember him sometimes. And I don't know, I think that sort of death that can happen in a relationship that doesn't come from a scandal or a love triangle or someone driving a limo off a bridge or all the other crazy shit we've done. Like, I think part of the reason I like it so much and I'm enjoying watching it so much now is I'm like, oh, that's just so much more real for most of what I've seen. Like, I don't know a lot of people who have a ton of scandal in their life, but I know a lot of people who like hit the end of the road and then had to start over.
I think to your point, Rob, it was her vulnerability that she was feeling such pain with that. Like you're saying, and you feel even more pain and confusion. And if there was not a thing, if there wasn't an event, if there wasn't a betrayal, if there wasn't an outright thing, and you're just feeling like, oh my God, I'm not in love anymore. Oh my God, this is, you know, but that's what I saw, her vulnerability. I didn't know their backstory well, but I did see that softness that, you know, she could have played it harder. And like people like try to get the point across in tough ways, you know, they'll be a jerk.
Exactly. It's one of those ones, the words are already harsh enough. And so it's the smarter choice to do what she did, which is to lean into the vulnerability and the pain behind the words, where it's like, I know I'm hurting you and this sucks and it hurts, as opposed to, that's what I'm saying, in the hands, I think, of a lesser actor that could have easily been just real shitty and cold and one note. And it would have set the character up to where, why are we going to root for her? You know, whereas instead we're seeing what's great is we're setting this runway up of she has baggage and is coming out of the thick of it. Clay, we're about to find out, has baggage. And so it's nice because it's not like, here are two new characters and they're about to fall in love. And instead it's like, here are these two new characters who are a mess right now. And they're going to get messy together, you know?
And it's nice that their relationship starts in that almost, it's not like sibling energy, but you know what I mean? Like it's playful. It's, the Haley's sister and Nathan's agent, and like she teases you about women and you make her drink this horrible drink. Like there's like a juvenile humor to it that I think gives us as an audience a little something new. It's not like Nathan and Haley, boom, they're in love forever, Peyton and Lucas, big endgame story. Like it's nice to have something new and innocent and silly. Especially because, as you just said, both of these characters have this heavy baggage. And even though we don't know about Clay's yet, we know there's something brewing in him that keeps him, holding most people at arm's length. And you're right. I think it was just such a great instinct that Chantel had to lean into how absolutely hard it is to hurt someone that you have loved. Even if you have to do it to save your own life, like it's hard. It's hard when someone isn't ready and you see the writing on the wall. You know the thing is dead. You know it has to be buried and the person's not ready to bury it. Like, that's so heavy. And if she had tried to mask that sadness, it would have felt cold. And instead, it's like, I may not understand everything going on with this woman, but I know how that feels. And it made it so relatable. This
is a reference I'm sure 20% at best of our audience is going to get. But have you ever seen the film Harry and the Hendersons?
Yes.
John Lithgow and the Bigfoot. Everything we're talking about.
One of my favorite movies.
Okay, great. It reminds me of the ending when John Lithgow's character realized, we love this guy and he's a part of our family, but this isn't the life he should have. He needs to be out in nature. And so he takes him out to the forest. And of course, the Bigfoot's like, we're good. I love you. You're my friend. And so John Lithgow has to put on this face where he's like, don't you see we don't love you? Get out of here. Get out of here. And Bigfoot's hurt and like, what the hell just happened? And so he sort of saunters off into the forest and Lithgow turns to camera and he starts crying. And it's like, oh, that hurt him too, but he knew it's what had to be done. What I'm saying is Chantel is John Lithgow and Scott Holroyd is Bigfoot. David's a Bigfoot. But one thing I would like that they also did with Clay and Quinn is that she sees him.
Yeah. And
when she calls him on it, he's honest. So right from the jump, there's sort of a bit of, it's like they already start cutting to it. She's like, is this who you are? A different girl every night? And he's like, sometimes, and so I like that there's already sort of like an access point for them to start to see each other and get to know each other.
Yeah. I love the way you have played Clay because I can tell there's something going on, but you bring such strength to the relationships with the people you love. Like the way you stand up for Nathan, and even watching you play that scene with Jana where you turn Alex down, I was like, oh, I can't wait to get into the gears of this. Did you know in 704 that things would start to be revealed for you soon, or were you just week by week figuring it out and trying to make interesting choices?
By 704... I might have started to be filled in on that. He obviously not a lot of the end game stuff of Clay. No, that didn't come until like it actually came. The Sharky stuff. But this stuff, I think they may have already been in my ear a bit because I don't recall when it happens. But when we find out what happened to him, I don't know if I knew at this point or not. But obviously from the text that I had or from the dialogue I had, I knew this guy had some pain and was running from something big. But I don't know if I knew it was his what we're going to find out it was.
It's nice. I feel like I can see it brewing.
I love that Clay and Quinn bonded over brain blasters. Everything Steven did, I thought was great. His first scene with you, Daphne, was so damn funny. You just roasted him, and the way he just took it was beautiful. And then all his stuff at the bar, he's just delightful. He's just fun and light. Mouth being a real good friend. I mean, the only thing I bumped on was after he's live on air and he refuses to read the story. When he goes to walk away, he walks past his boss, and his boss goes, "Yeah, just keep walking, McFadden. You're off the air." And I just laughed, going, "Are they in high school? What kind of grown up?" It felt like a locker room talk. You know, it's like, that's not how a boss would. Just keep walking. What would you expect him to do? But I thought, wow, Mouth really sort of showing his true character by it kind of jeopardizing his professional career for his buddy. And his belief in his buddy's innocence.
Yeah. Well, and I loved that he said, because there is such a difference between tabloids, which will print anything, any lie, and real news. And I loved that he said, no, if it's in those magazines, it's not serious. If we report on it, it becomes serious.
Right.
And he knows the difference. And I think, I don't know, it felt really refreshing because we live in this really weird world of nobody feels like they know anything anymore. And it's nice to be reminded that there are actually guardrails and boundaries and trusted news sources versus not. And it was such a simple thing to say, but it communicated so much. And then when he stood up for Nathan live on the air, as you said, it made me think about what Nathan was telling Jamie when Jamie's asking, Dad, why would someone lie about something like this? And he talks about how sometimes people forget the difference between right and wrong, and they take advantage of good people when they do. And we got this button with Mouth looking at that picture and saying, nope. And I was like, Marvin McFadden knows what's right. And it just Nathan and Jamie weren't in the scene, but it buttoned that whole thing up for me in a way that I was like, oh my God, it's such a good example. Made me want to sob.
Yeah.
And it's great that we have characters like Mouth, who in this episode is so grounded and small. Like he's steady. Whereas, they weren't at the fashion show. We have Alex stuff, and we have,
music and
music. There's all these things. And then his storyline is just, nope, my friend told me he didn't. I don't buy this. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's no hysterics. It's just a calm, no.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of Lee that way. You guys?
Yeah.
I know, Rob, you guys had nights of partying out there, and he, used to do his thing when he was younger. But I think of Lee that way, and I think of Mouth that way, and I'm sure as writers, they have to come up with someone who's going to be the right and wrong character. So all craziness can have something to be in contrast to.
Yeah.
But, it's a relief in these kinds of stories, especially that story where we all, with the tabloid stuff, it's just so evil and viral and just such a violations constantly, and they can say whatever they want. And when it's in print, people believe it. I don't care what it is.
It's so crazy.
People believe anything, like Bigfoot. You're talking about Harry and the Hendersons. But so he didn't have a choice. He knew right and wrong. If he said it, if you put it on, it's like people believe it. If it comes out of your mouth, out of Mouth's mouth as a news anchor, you believe it.
Yeah.
And I've seen, it's funny because recently I saw something that was released into the press about Melrose Place, and it was a leak. And then I saw it go viral. And every time it appeared somewhere else, from Deadline to Hollywood Reporter to Entertainment to USA Today to then the Today Show, it's coming out of people's mouths. I'm like, that's not true. Like, I saw things when I was younger and, whatever, I was in the press a little bit more, but this was like kind of an eye-opener, because think about it. People just grab something off the internet, and then whoever they have to just change a word, just change a word. And you're like, like, in production. In development and in production are two completely different things, So
Yeah.
I just saw that. And this point that you're bringing up about this part in this story of this episode, where he refuses to make news of this tabloid story, is I really, obviously so important, but I just really related it to it from recently, from going from online things where people need news to coming out of Anchor on the Today Show or Good Morning America for 2 days.
Yeah. It's so crazy.
So you have to be careful everything you read and everything you hear. You have to just, especially these days, as you said, Soph.
I mean, it's so crazy. And I think, listen, while they've gotten even wilder about what they're willing to print, evidence be damned. Things just don't even get fact checked anymore.
Because they know they can get away with it.
Well, and they want it. They want all the clickbait they can get because that's how they're all making money. But it's like, it's really crazy to me too, to your point, how some people have also figured out how to make suggestions without fully saying something, because if they fully said something that was a lie, they'd be sued for defamation. But if they suggest something and then say, oh, that's not really what I meant, I was just talking about my experience or whatever, people who want to manipulate are savvy enough to know how to use these very manipulative outlets to do so. And I think it was really interesting because on the one hand, knowing that, I'm watching this whole storyline going, wow, this is sort of evergreen. And then on the other hand, I feel really icky about it for the same reasons that you brought up about why it's hard to rewatch Melrose. Because I was like, oh, anytime we want a storyline for a woman, she has to get her heart broken, get cheated on, or get attacked. But to have a storyline for a guy, a woman has to lie about having had an affair with him. And it's like that classic evil harlot, woman up to no good thing, which we know actually happens so much more rarely than terrible things happen to women. And part of me couldn't help but be like, God, this story is very evergreen in certain ways because of how people will use the media and whatever. And then on the flip side, I was like, I have this icky feeling because is this just more of our boss being our boss, wanting to be like, women are just evil and they're temptresses and they're, all these crazy things. I found that it was hard for me to watch without being suspicious of the motivations in the writer's room. And that's hard for me. But it's like, once you know the way people wield their power, And so I don't know, it's interesting that you're talking about that being part of what you're experiencing rewatching your show, because I catch myself sometimes being like, is this a story because it's a good story, or is it a storyline because they were taking a pot shot at somebody? And I don't know. I wish I could scrub my brain and just watch it and not be suspicious.
Yeah.
One Tree Hill's tricky too, because we obviously know sort of the backstory. It's tricky to watch something and go, was it the higher up, or was it the fact that we were a teenage soap opera during that time period on a network known for beautiful people, so it's like, oh boy, which one was it,
Yeah. And that's the thing, you never know.
You don't. But to that point, it's also, listen, change is slow. Real change is slow, and most writing rooms are mostly men, and they've got to come up with something here. Well, what's the thread? And it's kind of what, like I said, it's already in the zeitgeist. It's already sort of just drama, and it's relatable because of the tabloids. So it's kind of just, I don't know, it's just there. It's kind of just safe, easy drama in a way. You know what I mean? Because it's a story, as you've said, that's been done over and over.
Well, and then to your point, if it is just about needing good drama and an easy story, it also really works with our hero couple of 7 seasons. What's going to come in and mess up Nathan and Haley? This is a pretty good in.
Yeah.
And the fact that I think there's actually something so cool And I know we're at time for the episode, but I can't let us finish without talking about how great Joy is in this episode. My God. And the way that she plays the anger and frustration about the situation, not the anger at Nathan, shows what an amazing team they are. Like, I think the goal in a relationship is always to be like, hey, it's you and me. We're teammates. And the problem is on the other side of the net. Like, it's us against the problem. And that was a dynamic that they didn't name, but that I saw represented in their relationship in all the scenes in this episode so well. And I don't know, I loved that. And so part of me is like, I don't want to wonder. I don't want to have all the like icky inside baseball like suspicions that I have, because I also sort of love who I get to see these people be, including Haley with a mean right hook at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Dude, she was good in that scene. The look in her eyes.
We got 2 punches in that one episode.
Dude, that's right. And I was going to say it. I think
You're
hers was better.
All
I
of
think she
Nathan's
had the
people
better
are
punch.
punching
I wasn't going to say it, Rob, but no,
Let's name it, Daphne. This is we get brave here on this podcast. She threw the better punch.
she threw a better punch, but you're number 2. You were second, you know? Nothing
Silver's still a
wrong
medal,
with
baby.
silver.
Two things. So first of all, how about Joy with bangs?
Yeah.
I
Okay,
know.
bangs looked
Out
great.
of nowhere, loved it.
But, and Daphne, you might not know this one because you didn't see 703 and 702. But so did Joy's hair get redder in this episode?
Yes.
It did, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It was like, oh, who knew I'd be watching Haley as a redhead whilst a redhead myself?
Was that for the fashion show? Because I noticed that totally was that just because we're doing this?
Yeah. So she like changed her hair.
I think I noticed the color though all episode, but it really popped in the lighting of the fashion show.
Yeah.
But it was funny because I had thought, I got to circle back and ask Soph how she's liking red hair. And then I sat down to watch the episode and went, is Joy's hair red?
Maybe everyone's loving the red hair.
Listen, it's really a time.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah.
I recommend for all. You're up next, Rob.
Listen, I'll do it. I had a moment after I finished my last show where I've always wanted to dye my hair, and I thought, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. It was like summertime, industry was slow. And first off, I had never had my hair. I wanted to go white, like white. And when you have dark brown hair like mine, that's a nightmare. And I went to a guy who wasn't good. Scalp burns. It was terrible. They ended up comping my entire thing because it was traumatic. But it was fun. But here's what I didn't realize: how much upkeep goes into coloring your hair. Like, I'm glad I did it once, but especially having dark hair and going lighter, you realize the window, how small the window is of time.
Like a week.
You get a week of enjoying it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, red is next. Would you like to read it or your question?
Yeah, we've got a question from Rachel. There are so many memorable quotes from the show. If you could choose one quote that you feel represents your personal life philosophy, what would it be? Oh my God, that is a big question. I was like, is the question going to be what's your character's best zinger? No, damn it.
I'm going to buy you a small amount of time because I have one locked and loaded for this.
Okay.
Because I initially thought, okay, wait, am I going to go deep with it? And then again, I remember so little of the show that there's very little I can quote at this point. However, I would say the quote for me is, I could eat the butt off a skunk.
Yeah.
From Alex an episode or two ago. Because I got to tell you how many times a day I talk about being hungry, wanting to eat. If we're going to a restaurant, I want to look at the menu ahead of time.
Yep.
Food is a huge part of my life. So I think that one kind of, if any moment you said, how you doing? Could you eat the butt off a skunk? I'd go, yeah.
Yes.
Probably could, actually. Fits.
Wow.
I like it. Daph, do you have anything percolating?
You know, I mean, Victoria has so many good ones. I can't say that they're life mottos, though, or philosophies. But, well, until next time.
That's pretty nice.
You know, until next time. You know what I have to say? Lately, there's been a lot of times when I've just wanted to go, get out of my freaking face. You
I
know,
love that.
not to an actual person, but just the issue and everything you represent and what you're bringing into me. Just so, and do it with a smile. So I think that's useful. I wouldn't say it's a life philosophy, but I think that we should all lean into the polite, nice little way of saying,
Yeah.
enough.
I like that.
So,
oh man. I don't know. The one I think that comes to mind immediately is because it's one of the ones I get asked to sign the most at our conventions. But Brooke has a whole speech about how there will be a day when you realize you're not just a survivor, you're a warrior. And for some reason, that theme of how people can take their power back has really been so present in so many conversations, in so many places and spaces I've been in recently. And so I guess there's a little bit of that, like giving the positivity and the power and the credit to yourself for the life you've lived so far, instead of saying like, oh, I've been through all of this. It's like, yeah, and I fucking nailed it. No matter how hard it was, I did it and I'm here. And I love that. I really like the idea that you don't have to be bummed or shamed. You can be proud. I think that's sort of great. That feels like it for me in this moment.
I love that.
It's a good one. It seems good.
Daphne, thank you for joining us. It was so good to see you, friend.
The best.
Guys, thanks for having me.
Tell everybody, because obviously you're the best at podcasting, where we can find yours, where people can listen, how much is available to listen to. Give us the rundown of all things Still the Place for our listeners.
So it's called Still the Place because our show back in the 90s was Melrose Place. And it comes out every Monday. There's a new episode. We have 4 up already. It's produced by iHeart and it's available anywhere, though, where they say you can get wherever you can get podcasts. And it's Courtney Thorne-Smith and Laura and myself. And we, I think, we're episode 3 maybe, but we're starting from the very beginning and we will be rewatching all of them. And so we hope people can watch Melrose Place. You can do it on Paramount or Amazon and come and watch us with all the behind the scenes. And, we talked about all of our audition processes and then, what it was like coming on the show. And Courtney has so many great memories and it's a whole other era, the 90s, if you want just an escape, to just enjoy what we wore alone in the 90s.
Sounds awesome.
Not the hairspray that required.
Also, I have to say, like, the excitement percolating in my friend group, my girlfriend Sam from college and one of my best friends, Jamie, from right after college, the 3 of us for the longest time lived in an apartment building off of Melrose Place. And really? we were and this was like before you and I had started working together, and we were like, it's Melrose Place, like the new class. We kept joking about it. And then when you came on One Tree Hill, like my friends like died. And so I don't know, this feels very, very fun for us. None of us lives there anymore, but oh my God, it was a time.
Yeah. Very cool. We still hear that, like people, I really love it because we did wait all these years, 30 years. And as I said, it just sort of happened spontaneously, but it's long enough ago that people can, like, you smile when you talk about that. It's a memory. It's a nostalgia too, because it's a real era and people's when they were young in college or just after college. So it's really fun. But I love it. To come back on with you too. And, this has been great. You guys are
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you.
And friends, we'll see you all next week for season 7, episode 5, Your Cheating Heart.
Hey, thanks for listening.
Don't forget to leave us a review. You can also follow us on Instagram at DramaQueensOTH.
Or email us at dramaqueens@iheartradio.com. See you next time.
We're all about that high school drama girl, all about them high school queens. We'll take you for a ride in our comic girl, cheering for the right team. Drama queens, smart girl, rough girl, fashion but you're tough girl. You could sit with us, girl. Drama queens, drama queens, drama queens, drama queens, drama queens.